They promised him a pet. What arrived was a terrified alien vampire woman. Ethan had been waiting for this day for weeks. His birthday had finally arrived, and with it, the promise of a gift he had been dreaming about for months: a pet. Not just any pet, an exotic, rare alien creature from the farthest corners of the galaxy. The human colonies prided themselves on trading the most unusual species, and Ethan's parents had spared no expense. As he sat on the edge of his bed in his small room aboard the TerrorHFY space station, Ethan's eyes never left the delivery bay viewport. He imagined a small, playful creature hopping around, maybe a luminous alien puppy or a tiny, feathery being that could mimic sounds. He had already chosen a spot in his room for its habitat, complete with a soft floor mat, a little water bowl, and some colorful toys he had read about in the trade catalog. The hum of the station's automated drones filled the air. Ethan tapped his foot nervously, listening to the distant clang of metal and the soft beeps of the delivery systems. Suddenly, a small crate appeared at the end of the hall, suspended by a hovering drone. It stopped in front of the bay door and the crate lowered gently onto the floor. A soft chime indicated its arrival. Ethan ran down the hall, nearly tripping over himself in excitement. "It's here! Finally!" he exclaimed, fumbling with the crate's locks. The crate opened with a hiss of pressurized air, but what Ethan saw made him freeze. Inside the crate there was no small creature, no alien puppy, no colorful feathered pet. Instead, a tall, pale figure crouched in the corner. She looked human at first glance, but her skin was almost luminescent white, her hair black as the deepest void, and her eyes, huge, violet, and glimmering, stared back at him in sheer terror. Two small fangs peeked from her slightly open mouth. Ethan blinked. Hi," he said, uncertain. The alien woman shrank further into the corner, hugging her knees to her chest. She trembled, making soft, whimpering sounds that made Ethan's heart ache. Clearly, she was terrified. "Wait, she's not a pet," Ethan whispered to himself. His excitement faded, replaced by confusion and concern. The delivery drone hovering beside the crate chirped a cheerful message: "Delivery complete. Exotic pet as ordered." Ethan stared at the crate, then back at the drone. "No, this isn't a pet. She's alive." The alien woman flinched at his voice and moved back into the corner. Ethan held up his hands. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. I don't know what to do. Are you okay?" The woman made a small, trembling sound that was almost a sob. She shook her head. Ethan's mind raced. He had read about aliens being traded as pets, but he had never imagined that one would actually arrive at his home, and he had never imagined it would look human and intelligent. She clearly understood fear and danger. She was sentient. Okay, Ethan muttered. He knelt by the crate. "Let's get you out slowly. I'll help you." He carefully lifted the crate's lid wider. The alien flinched, covering her face with her hands. Ethan spoke in calm, slow tones, trying to show he meant no harm. "It's okay. I'm Ethan. I'm your friend, I guess. Can you understand me?" The woman peeked through her fingers, her large violet eyes scanning him. She didn't speak, but her gaze was sharp, alert, and full of cautious intelligence. Ethan took a deep breath. "All right. Step 1, I'll make a place for you, a safe place. No one will bother you here." He quickly moved to the corner of his room, clearing a soft mat and some pillows. "Here, you can stay here. It's comfortable. Promise." The alien slowly uncurled inch by inch and stepped onto the mat. She moved gracefully, almost like she was floating. Ethan noticed her feet didn't make much sound on the floor. She looked around the room, still wary, her large eyes scanning everything. "What's your name?" Ethan asked. He knew she might not answer. She had not spoken yet. The alien tilted her head, studying him. Then in a soft, melodic voice she said, "Lyra." Ethan smiled. "Lyra, okay, Lyra, I like that." He paused. "I don't know how long you've been delivered or why, but I think someone made a mistake. You're not a pet." Lyra's shoulders stiffened. She looked at him with an expression that seemed to ask, "What do you mean?" Ethan knelt down and reached slowly toward her. She flinched but did not back away. "You're not a toy or a pet or anything," they said. "You're alive, you have thoughts, feelings, you're smart." For a long moment Lyra just stared at him. Then she whispered almost to herself, "They lied." Ethan's stomach sank. "Who lied?" "The people who sent you," Lyra nodded. "The traitors, they said I would be safe, that I would be a pet. I am not," she shivered, unable to finish. Ethan frowned. "Oh no, you were tricked." The weight of her words sank in. Ethan had always loved stories about exotic alien pets, but he had never thought about what it meant for the creature itself. He had imagined cute, harmless animals, but Lyra was not harmless. She was intelligent, scared, and clearly someone had taken advantage of her. Ethan's mind worked fast. "Okay, first things first. You need water, food, something familiar." He went to his small kitchen corner and brought a bowl of water and some soft nutrient paste he had bought for alien pets. "Try this," he said, placing it gently near her. Lyra looked at it suspiciously but eventually took a small sip of water. She flinched slightly at the taste but continued drinking. Ethan smiled softly. "Good, that's step one, hydration." He sat down across from her. "Step two, well, I need to understand you. I need to know who you are, where you come from. Can you tell me?" Lyra hesitated. Her eyes darted toward the window, toward the docking bay, as if expecting someone to appear. I come from far. A world of night skies. My people, they," her voice trailed off. Ethan nodded encouragingly. "Take your time, you don't have to tell me everything at once." Lyra's shoulders relaxed slightly, the first sign of trust. She sank onto the mat, curling her long legs beneath her. They took me. They said I would be safe. I am not a pet." "I am me," Ethan's heart clenched. "I know, and I promise I'll help you. You're safe here. You can stay as long as you want. I won't let anyone hurt you." For the first time, Lyra's trembling eased. She lowered her hands from her face and studied him. "You mean that?" Ethan nodded, smiling warmly. "I mean it. You're not a toy. You're my guest, my friend, if you want." Lyra studied him for a long moment. Then softly she whispered, "Friend." Ethan felt a rush of relief. This was the start of something new, something he hadn't expected when he woke up this morning dreaming of a cute alien pet. He had never imagined that the pet promised to him would be a terrified alien woman, with intelligence, grace, and a mysterious past. But Ethan knew one thing clearly: he would not treat Lyra like a pet. She was alive, thinking, feeling, and scared, and he would do everything he could to help her. The delivery drone, sensing the new dynamic, chirped happily. "Exotic pet successfully delivered." Ethan turned to it and laughed softly. "No, no pets here, just someone who needs help." Lyra tilted her head at his words. "Help," she repeated. "Yes, I need help." And so began the unusual companionship between a human boy and a mysterious alien vampire woman. One that would challenge the colony's ideas, test Ethan's ingenuity, and prove that humans could surprise the galaxy not with violence, but with empathy, courage, and clever thinking. As night fell over the Tarsi space station, Ethan watched the stars with Lyra beside him, her violet eyes reflecting the distant lights. He did not know what adventures awaited them, but he felt certain of one thing: this birthday gift was unlike any other, and their story was only beginning. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the thin metal blinds of Ethan's room. Lyra sat curled on the mat, watching the slow rotation of the station outside the window. Her violet eyes followed the distant ships as they glided past the docking bay. Ethan quietly prepared breakfast, careful not to startle her. "Morning," he said softly, placing a bowl of nutrient paste near her. "I made something you might like." Lyra sniffed it cautiously, then took a tiny taste. Her eyes widened and she nodded slightly. It was a small sign of trust, but a sign nonetheless. Ethan smiled. "Good." One small victory. For Ethan, the morning was a mix of excitement and worry. He wanted to learn more about Lyra, her world, her abilities, and her story, but he also knew he had to move slowly. She was frightened, and sudden gestures could undo the trust they had started to build. After breakfast, Ethan returned to the small corner of his room that served as his workshop. He pulled out a few tools, wires, and a small handheld device he had been tinkering with for school projects. "I think we need a way to talk more easily," Ethan said, addressing Lyra. "I can't read your language and you can't read mine, but maybe we can make a translator." Lyra tilted her head, curious but cautious. "Translator?" she asked, her voice soft. Ethan nodded. "Yes, something that can turn your words into mine and my words into yours. I've seen devices like this in the lab at school. I think I can make one small enough for here." Over the next few hours, Ethan worked. He carefully connected circuits, adjusted small sensors, and programmed the device to recognize sounds. Lyra watched silently at first, then slowly leaned closer, her violet eyes scanning every move. Occasionally, she touched a wire or a component, not fully understanding but curious. When he finished, he placed the device on the mat between them. "Okay," Ethan said, "try saying something." Lyra hesitated. Then softly she whispered a word in her strange language, Vreni. The device hummed for a moment, lights blinking. Then it displayed the translation, "Hello." Ethan's eyes widened in delight. "It worked," he exclaimed. "You said hello." Lyra's lips curved slightly. "Hello," she repeated, testing the device. Ethan grinned. "Perfect. Now we can really talk." Over the next few days, Ethan and Lyra began to learn about each other. Lyra spoke of her home planet, a place bathed in eternal night, where luminous forests glowed in shades of purple and blue. She told him about her people, graceful, intelligent, and strong, yet gentle. Humans often misunderstood them because of their appearance. The vampire traits were a warning to others, not an act of aggression. Ethan listened, fascinated. "So your fangs, your eyes, they're not dangerous?" he asked. Lyra shook her head. "No, they are part of me. My kind uses them for survival on our world. But here, humans see them and fear. I do not want to hurt." Ethan nodded. "I understand, and I'll help others see that too. You're not a threat." It was a slow process. Some moments were frustrating, as Lyra sometimes flinched at sudden movements, and Ethan struggled to find the right words for complex ideas. But every small success, every shared smile, every understanding glance built trust. One afternoon, Ethan had an idea. "Lyra, would you like to explore?" Lyra's eyes widened. "Explore? Outside?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, but safely. I can make a small suit, a shield, and a safe harness. No one will touch you. You'll just see the station from outside." Lyra hesitated. Fear flickered across her face, but curiosity won. "I trust you," she whispered. Together they prepared. Ethan fashioned a lightweight suit from flexible materials and attached the small shield he had in his backpack. Lyra stepped in carefully, and he helped secure her. Then, with a gentle push from the airlock, they floated along the station's exterior, the stars spreading endlessly around them. Lyra gasped. "The sky, it is endless." Ethan smiled. "It's beautiful, isn't it? And this is just the station. Imagine what your home planet must look like." Lyra's eyes shone. It is similar and yet different, beautiful, dangerous, but alive." Back inside, they returned to Ethan's room, both exhilarated and tired. This small adventure strengthened their bond. Lyra began to relax, moving more freely around the room and even playing with small objects Ethan placed before her. But their peaceful days did not go unnoticed. Across the station, rumors began to spread. A human boy had received an alien pet, and whispers of a strange, vampire-like creature circulated among curious onlookers. One morning, Ethan woke to find a small group of neighbors peeking into his doorway. "Hey, is that true? You got an alien?" one of them asked. Ethan stepped forward, calm but firm. "She's not a pet. She's Lyra. She's my friend. And she's not here for anyone else to see or judge." The neighbors exchanged uncertain glances, clearly unused to such intelligence from an alien species. They murmured among themselves, then slowly backed away, leaving Ethan and Lyra alone. Lyra's violet eyes widened. "Humans curious, dangerous?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "Not dangerous, just uninformed. Some humans don't know how to react when they see something new. But we'll be careful." As days passed, Ethan realized that he had more to learn than he had expected. Lyra's abilities were remarkable. She could sense emotions, hers and others, with surprising accuracy. She could mimic sounds perfectly, even the softest human whisper. Her memory was exceptional, recalling details from her home planet that even Ethan struggled to imagine. One evening, Lyra sat by the window, staring at the stars. I remember the traders," she whispered. They lied. They said safe. They took me from home." Ethan sat beside her. "I know, and I promise we'll fix it. I don't know exactly how yet, but we'll find a way. You won't be alone." Lyra looked at him, her eyes softening. "You trust me." "I do," Ethan replied. "And you can trust me, that's how this works." For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to relax completely. She leaned against Ethan's shoulder, a gesture that was small but powerful. It meant she trusted him. It meant she believed he would protect her, not as a pet, but as a friend. Their days continued with small experiments. Ethan showed Lyra human technology, small gadgets, lights, and sensors. Lyra, in turn, taught Ethan about her senses, her abilities, and her unique perspective on the universe. She could detect subtle changes in air pressure, sense emotions from the faintest heartbeat, and even understand patterns that humans would miss. Ethan realized something incredible. Lyra could be a bridge between worlds. Not a weapon, not a tool, but a being who could help humans understand the galaxy better. And she had chosen to trust him. One afternoon, a small incident tested that trust. Ethan accidentally dropped a tool near Lyra's foot. She flinched, moving back, and a soft whimper escaped her. "I scared?" she asked. "You're not scared of me, are you?" Ethan asked. Lyra shook her head. "Not you humans, sometimes they react badly." Ethan nodded. "I understand and will practice. Slowly, you'll be safe. I'll protect you." Over the next week, Ethan worked on a translation upgrade for their device, allowing more complex ideas to pass between them. With each word, Lyra grew more confident and their bond deepened. She laughed for the first time, a soft, musical sound that made Ethan grin from ear to ear. "Laugh?" she asked, unsure. "Yes, you just did." Ethan laughed with her. Lyra's eyes sparkled, and for a moment the room felt lighter. The galaxy outside might be full of danger and unknowns, but inside Ethan's room, a human boy and a terrified alien vampire woman were learning to understand each other. And slowly, the fear that had gripped Lyra for so long began to fade. Days passed, and Ethan and Lyra settled into a cautious but comforting routine. Lyra's confidence grew, and with it, a spark of curiosity that could no longer be contained. She moved gracefully around Ethan's room, sometimes wandering to the window to watch the space traffic. Her sharp violet eyes scanned every movement, yet she no longer flinched at minor surprises. "Lyra, do you want to see more of the station?" Ethan asked one morning. He had spent the previous nights planning a safe route through the corridors, a path where Lyra could explore without encountering too many humans. Lyra tilted her head, her long black hair catching the sunlight from the viewport. "Explore more?" she asked, curiosity lacing her voice. "Yes," Ethan said, smiling, "but safely. I'll guide you. We'll take it slow and you'll wear your suit. No one will hurt you. Promise." Lyra hesitated, then nodded. "I trust you." The first time they ventured into the main corridors of the station, Lyra's presence caused a stir. She moved silently, her pale skin and glowing violet eyes drawing the attention of every passerby. Ethan stayed close, holding her hand gently to reassure her. "Humans stare," Lyra whispered. "Yes, but it's curiosity, not harm," Ethan replied. "We'll show them that you're not a threat." Their first encounter was with a group of children who pointed and whispered excitedly. "Wow, that's a real alien." one said. Lyra froze, shrinking slightly behind Ethan, but he knelt beside her, offering a calm smile. It's okay, they just want to see you. You can wave if you want or not, your choice. Slowly, Lyra lifted her hand and gave a small, hesitant wave. The children gasped in delight, but no one moved closer than Ethan allowed. Lyra's trust in him grew further. The next few days were filled with careful exploration. Lyra discovered small corners of the station, hidden gardens, quiet observation decks, and even the automated library with holographic books. Ethan taught her about humans, their customs, their technology, and how they navigated space life. In return, Lyra taught Ethan things he could not have imagined. She could sense minute shifts in the station's energy systems, detect weak structural points in the corridors, and even identify minor malfunctions in machinery by listening to the vibrations. Ethan marveled at her abilities. "You're like a super sensor," he said one evening as they sat by the observation deck, watching distant stars twinkle. Lyra chuckled softly, a melodic sound that made Ethan smile. "Humans underestimate senses. You rely on machines, I rely on self-nature." But their peaceful days could not last forever. Word of Lyra's presence spread across the station. Rumors reached ears that should never have heard them. Traders, curious scientists, and even some bureaucrats began whispering about the alien pet. One afternoon, as Ethan and Lyra practiced a simple game of memory using holographic blocks, a small crowd gathered near the corridor outside. They peeked in, murmuring, "Is that her?" one trader whispered. "Yes. I heard someone is keeping her in a room like a pet," another replied. Ethan noticed the crowd and quickly moved to block their view. "No," he said firmly, standing between them and Lyra. "She is not a pet. She is Lyra. She is my friend, and she is intelligent. She is not to be touched, not to be bothered, and certainly not to be taken." The traders exchanged skeptical glances. "It's a rare species," one said. "Could be valuable. They didn't pay us to be your friend." Ethan's jaw tightened. "She is not property. You don't get to decide her life." Lyra's eyes widened at his words. She had never heard a human speak with such certainty on behalf of someone else, especially for a species they didn't understand. The traders, seeing Ethan's determination, hesitated. They were used to humans being compliant, but this boy would not back down. "Ethan, maybe," Lyra whispered, gripping his arm. "No," he said gently. "I'm not letting anyone scare you. You have the right to choose your path. That's what makes you you." The traders finally backed away, grumbling but restrained by station laws and the presence of other humans watching. Lyra let out a soft breath. She looked at Ethan with deep gratitude. "You protect me," she said softly. "Yes," Ethan replied. "I do, and I always will." The next challenge came from curiosity rather than threat. Some scientists wanted to study Lyra, believing her abilities could advance human knowledge. Ethan understood the importance of science, but refused to allow her to be treated as a specimen. "We can work together," he told them, "but only if she chooses. She is not a tool, she is a person." The scientists, seeing Lyra's intelligence and willingness to communicate through the translator, slowly agreed. They set up a neutral area with her consent, allowing her to demonstrate her abilities on her terms. Lyra was cautious but intrigued. She quickly grasped how humans used their machines, comparing them to her natural senses. One afternoon, Ethan watched her detect tiny fluctuations in the air currents of the station. Lyra whispered, "Human machines' slow senses can feel more." Ethan laughed softly. "You're incredible. I never realized how much we miss." Lyra's violet eyes sparkled. "You learn faster with me." Together, they discovered that cooperation was more powerful than force. Lyra helped identify minor malfunctions in the station's systems, sometimes before humans even noticed them. Ethan shared these discoveries with the engineers, carefully explaining her abilities without revealing her as a captive or pet. The engineers were astonished but respected her autonomy and Ethan's careful guidance. However, the station was not without its dangers. While exploring one quiet sector, a group of curious tourists stumbled upon them. Lyra froze, her eyes wide with fear. "Humans, many too close," she whispered. Ethan quickly stepped in, gently guiding her back. "It's okay. I've got you. Remember what we practiced." Lyra nodded, her breathing rapid but steadying. Ethan calmly redirected the group, explaining that she was visiting the station as a guest, not a pet, and that they needed permission to approach. Slowly, the crowd dispersed, murmuring, and Lyra's fear began to fade again. That night, Ethan reflected on the day's events. Lyra's intelligence and abilities were extraordinary, yet her fear reminded him how easily humans could misunderstand her. He realized that protecting her meant more than guarding her physically. It meant educating others, advocating for her, and creating an environment where she could feel safe to be herself. Lyra sat beside him, watching him work on another translation device upgrade. "Ethan, why humans not understand?" she asked softly. Ethan thought for a moment. "Humans often judge by what they see first. Appearance, rumors, fear. But some humans, the ones who listen, who care, they can understand. And you've helped me see the galaxy differently too." Lyra's eyes softened. "I trust humans with you," Ethan smiled. "And I trust you too. That's how it works. We protect each other." Over the next week, Ethan introduced Lyra to a few trusted friends who were curious but respectful. They learned quickly how to interact with her safely. Lyra began to enjoy these brief interactions, showing flashes of her intelligence, humor, and curiosity. She demonstrated how she could sense emotions in ways humans never imagined, mimic sounds perfectly, and even solve simple puzzles. Each time Lyra succeeded, Ethan celebrated quietly. He knew that the station might never fully accept her, but within their circle, she was safe, respected, and free to be herself. Then came the message that Ethan had feared but knew would arrive eventually. The traders who had originally sold Lyra had traced her to the station. A holographic message blinked on his workstation. "Property has been located. Return immediately or face legal consequences." Ethan's heart pounded. He knew these traders relied on outdated intergalactic laws, but he also knew that Lyra's freedom depended on his quick thinking. He glanced at her, sitting quietly beside him, her violet eyes calm but aware of the tension. "We'll fix this," he said softly. "No fighting. We'll use our brains. You trust me?" Lyra nodded. "Always trust." Ethan exhaled. He had faced challenges before, but protecting a sentient alien being against greedy traders required more than courage. It required wit, creativity, and the human advantage, empathy and diplomacy. As he prepared his plan, Ethan felt a surge of determination. Lyra's life, her freedom, and her trust rested on his choices, and he would not fail her, not now, not ever. The stars outside the station continued to shine, indifferent to human troubles. But inside, a boy and a vampire alien woman had built a bond that would withstand fear, misunderstanding, and greed. Together, they were ready for whatever challenge came next. The morning sun reflected off the metal walls of the TerrorHFY space station as Ethan reviewed his plan. The traders who had sold Lyra had tracked her down, and their holographic message had left no doubt. They expected to reclaim their property. Ethan glanced at Lyra, who was quietly sitting on her mat. Her violet eyes were calm, but he could sense the tension underneath. She trusted him, and he could not let that trust be broken. "Don't worry," he said softly. "We'll handle this. Without fighting, we'll use our heads." Lyra tilted her head. "Human heads clever," Ethan nodded. "Exactly, we'll outsmart them." Sometimes humans can surprise the galaxy, not with strength, but with ideas. He spent the morning setting up a meeting space at the station's neutral arbitration platform, a large, open area where disputes could be handled under station law. He sent a polite request to the traders: "We can meet, but only under fair rules." No force. Lyra decides. By mid-afternoon, the traders arrived. Two tall figures dressed in dark, sharp uniforms stepped into the arbitration platform, their expressions unreadable. Ethan stood beside Lyra, who remained calm, her translator device ready. The lead trader's voice was firm. "We are here for the property we purchased. The alien must return." Ethan squared his shoulders. "Lyra is not property. She is sentient. She can think, feel, and choose." "That is her right," the trader scoffed. "You misunderstand. She is legally ours. You cannot defy the contract." Ethan smiled calmly. "Contracts are for humans and traders, yes, but sentient beings, those who can reason and express themselves, are not tools. Lyra decides her fate. That is intergalactic law, even if your law books forget it sometimes." Lyra's eyes widened slightly. "I choose." "Yes," Ethan said. "You have the right to choose where you live, who you stay with, and what you do. No one can force you." The traders exchanged uneasy glances. They were used to humans complying, not arguing. Ethan, barely 15, was standing confidently, defending an alien against them, not with weapons but with words and logic. Lyra spoke softly through the translator device. "I choose stay with Ethan. With humans who trust me." A hush fell over the platform. Ethan felt a surge of pride. Lyra had made her choice. The traders could grumble, threaten, or leave, but legally and morally they had no claim. The station arbitrator, a tall human with a calm demeanor, nodded approvingly. "The alien has expressed her will. That settles it. She is free to choose her companion and her home. Traders, you may not force her." The traders muttered under their breath but finally left, their authority nullified by reason and law. Ethan exhaled. "It's over," he said softly. Lyra stepped closer to him. "You protect me, clever human," she said. Her violet eyes shimmered with gratitude. Ethan smiled. "We protect each other. That's the way it should be." With the immediate threat gone, life slowly returned to normal. Lyra's days were filled with learning and exploring. She studied human technology, discovered more of the station's hidden corridors, and even helped engineers identify small problems in the system. Her abilities, sensing energy, detecting emotions, and recalling details with perfect memory, made her a valuable companion, not a pet. Ethan realized that their bond had changed the station's perception of aliens. Humans who had once whispered and stared now approached respectfully, curious to learn from Lyra rather than exploit her. One afternoon, Ethan and Lyra sat by the observation deck, watching distant planets rotate in the vast darkness. "You like humans?" Ethan asked casually. Lyra tilted her head. "Some humans, yes. They kind, clever, trust me." "And you like humans," Ethan said, teasing gently. Lyra laughed softly, a melodic sound that made Ethan grin. "I like some humans, especially you." Ethan laughed too. "I like you, Lyra, not as a pet, not as a prize, just as a friend. A very unusual friend." She smiled. "Friend, good word, makes heart light." The days continued with new routines. Ethan introduced Lyra to a few trusted friends who shared their curiosity respectfully. They experimented with simple games, puzzles, and tasks that combined human technology with Lyra's alien senses. She could solve a puzzle in seconds that humans spent hours on, yet she laughed when Ethan celebrated the small victories as if she had done them herself. Ethan marveled at her abilities, but more than that, he appreciated her companionship. "You're incredible, Lyra," he said one evening. "Not just your abilities, but how you see the world. You remind me that humans don't always notice the important things." Lyra's eyes sparkled. "And humans see some things differently, I learn." One day, while exploring the station's botanical garden, Lyra paused near a glowing plant. She reached out, her fingers brushing the petals carefully. "This, alive like home," she said softly. Ethan nodded. "Yes, even here life grows. Just like on your planet, just like anywhere. We humans sometimes forget to notice." Lyra smiled faintly. "You notice, good human. But the galaxy, as always, was full of surprises. A faint message arrived at the station's communications hub. Several other aliens had been reported missing on distant colonies, likely victims of illegal trade. Lyra's expression darkened. Others, taken like me. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Then we'll help them, just like we helped you. Without fighting, we'll use our brains, our empathy, and clever ideas. We can make a difference. Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, clever humans help others. It was then Ethan realized the truth of HFY. Not strength, weapons, or dominance, but human creativity, empathy, and determination could truly make a difference in the galaxy. Weeks passed. Life on the station settled into a peaceful rhythm. Lyra no longer flinched at human attention. She smiled, laughed, and explored freely. Children waved to her in the corridors, engineers consulted her on minor tasks, and Ethan's friends admired the bond between them. One evening, as they watched the stars from the observation deck, Ethan turned to Lyra. "You're happy here," Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the countless distant lights. "Yes, safe, free, friend, human." "And you'll stay?" Ethan asked, smiling. Lyra smiled. "I choose stay." "With humans with you," Ethan grinned. "Good, that's exactly where you belong." In the days that followed, Ethan and Lyra's story spread across the station. Other colonies began to question the treatment of exotic species, and humans started advocating for sentient aliens, inspired by a clever boy and a frightened alien who had become friends. Lyra's presence reminded everyone that compassion and understanding could change the galaxy in ways violence never could. As Ethan looked at Lyra one quiet evening, he realized that their friendship was more than unusual. It was extraordinary. Together they had faced fear, misunderstanding, and greed, and they had won, not with strength but with empathy, courage, and clever thinking. Lyra's hand found his, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. "Human, clever friend," she whispered. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. "And you're an incredible friend too, Lyra. Not a pet, not a trophy, just you." The stars outside the observation deck sparkled like diamonds in the endless dark. But inside the station, a human boy and a vampire alien woman had created a small universe of trust, understanding, and friendship. They had proven that humans, with their hearts and minds, could truly surprise the galaxy. And so, the unusual pair looked toward the future, ready for the adventures yet to come, together, free and unafraid.